You're not burnt out because your operation sucks. Your operation sucks because you're burnt out. For the last 2 years, I analyzed over hundreds of different agencies and saw the inside outs of their operations. But what I realized wasn't that most agency owners didn't know what to do. They already know that. They simply haven't had the capacity to do the work. And that's why I make this video, to show you how to build the right operation despite your 18-hour work week. In fact, to get to the next level, it's required to do less work. I don't know why, but most agency owners think that you need to grind 80 hours per week to break through the next revenue ceiling. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Look, if you truly think about it, you have to do more output. But that doesn't mean you should input more time. You just do more things in the same period or shorter period of time. At first, you can use time to get things done when you just started your agency. But then, because you have just 24 hours in a day, you hit a ceiling you cannot break through. If you want to get from Madrid to Zurich, you can't do that by feet. You need a different vehicle. And the vehicle is not manual work, but you are trying now with manual work to do more output. You are literally trading time for money, like in your 9 to 5, or I should say in your 8 to 6. And I hope I got you in a way of new thinking with that. And actually, I have broken down the whole system on how this new vehicle is actually working. But you already know the vehicle. The vehicle are systems. So let's get into it. Your agency doesn't need more clients. It needs more capacity. So you can actually build out those systems so you can run your agency without your involvement. The core problem is that you are not burnt out because your operation sucks. Your operation sucks because you are burnt out. Let's get actually clear what I mean by capacity. Capacity equals systems times energy times hours. When you break down this equation, we see that if you don't have any systems, your capacity is also zero, because something times zero is still zero. Same thing with energy and hours. Okay, and if you don't have any systems at all, you don't have a business. But this is just an extreme case. But if you have 0 hours left in your day and in your week, your capacity to build out those systems is just impossible. So what you need to fix is your energy and hours. So you have the time and energy to create systems to get even more capacity until a point where your business is running without you on a daily basis. But let's get actually more into the specific reason why you can't grow. And I want to be completely honest with you. You're just desperate for money. Your only goal is to bring water in the bucket. Let me explain. When you are desperate for money, in a sense that you sacrifice everything to make money, your ultimate goal is to sell. So you do outbound and hop on those sales calls. Then, with enough volume, you close a deal. But this is the exact moment where your problem begins. You have to deliver, but you are also desperate for even more money. So what you're doing is to sell again. But then you have to also have to deliver. And you can see now this cycle. And you just sell your time like in your 9 to 5. Even though you have retainers, you can still break down those retainers on your hourly rate. Let's just think for a moment what happens if you weren't desperate and maybe not sign new clients and just chill. Because chilling is actually a skill in business. Like a bodybuilder, he shouldn't train chest every day. He has to wait until his body repaired his muscles. And you have to wait and see what's leaking. But it only comes with time. You cannot see that immediately. And if you think everything is right, my friend, you're just mistaken. You should be worried if everything seems fine, because it's not. You have to figure out your problems because you don't want to scale problems. And if you actually talk about leverage, applied leverage is the definition for scaling. So you can scale without problems. But now you aren't in a situation because you're desperate for money. But this is actually a paradoxon because if you truly think about it, you only make more money in the short term. But if you just wait, you can actually make more money in the long term and achieve your goal. But now you are trying to deliver and do all those stuff just with time. And time can be only leveraged to a certain point because everybody has just 24 hours in a day. Scaling is about applying a certain amount of time and energy in a way that you get continuously more output, not tied to your energy and time. And the more desperate you are for short-term money, the harder it is to actually scale because your bandwidth, so time and energy, is not there at all. So here's a quick example. So if you're comparing the capacity from 10 to 1440, you have 140 times the capacity to scale. There's no wonder why you can't build systems and strong operations in the first place because, again, you have no energy and time for that. So here's what actually works. Here's the vehicle I mentioned earlier. Getting your agency in a place where you can apply leverage is about constant removal, not scaling random volume. Relentlessly removing 80% of work that consumes time but barely moves the business forward. So the real 20% of work has actually room to compound every single time over and over again. But therefore, you have to put your ego aside, pause and see what is actually happening right now. Your vehicles are systems, and systems can be scaled to the absolute moon. But you have to do things in the right order. Massive volume was required when you started your agency. But now things are changing. What gets you to the 10K mark won't get you further. You need bandwidth to install those systems. So make sure to have it. Then you can actually hyperscale.